Amer is a CEO and founder of Live Longevity Labs. Has worked in several tech companies, including Native Instruments, and those of you who are DJs might have heard of that, but many other cool companies. So please welcome Olena and Amer.
Hi everybody. So yeah, a bit of a jump from DJing gear and music production to longevity, but it's personal for me. All right, is this okay? It's that one? Okay. Sorry about that. That's called feedback. Better? Closer? Yeah? All right, good. Yeah, so for me, why did I make this change? I think for a lot of people here, it's a very personal thing. My father died when I was just a child, and he was in his early 50s. And recently, my mother got very sick as well. So while I think it's really interesting to talk and to dissect the etymology and what does it mean, longevity, I think is very personal. When someone gets ill, you don't want them to get ill. And that's really what's driving Live Longevity Labs. We're here on a mission to really make longevity approachable. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means for us and share my thinking a little bit. So obviously, my co-founder here is the brains behind the science of longevity. And for me, I'm the product guy. So I'm really thinking about how do we get this into the hands of people. So that's really what I want to talk about a little bit today. So who here is a builder? Who here builds things for people? All right, so I'm talking to you. Do you know what this curve is? This curve, yeah, actually there's a blue one that you don't see at all, actually, funnily enough. That's kind of terrible. Okay, I think we have a very small screen for me today. So this is, so this is the theory of diffusion of innovation. There's a bell curve here, actually. And this is the amount of the population that actually adopts a specific technology. All right, thank you.
I'm a builder and a fixer.
Right. And she's careful about her sleep.
So we're here talking about longevity, and I've spoken at Vitalia before, and it's really exciting to be at events like Zelar.City and be surrounded by so many people that are so passionate about this topic. And having been doing this since the beginning of the year, when Olena and I got together and founded the longevity community here in Berlin, it kind of feels like it's on everyone's mind and everyone already knows what longevity is and what they should do about it and so on. But that's because we're in our own bubble, and we saw that in a previous presentation. And to put things into perspective, I'm going to talk about the story of the evolution or the diffusion of technology that we all know. It's in my hand, it's in front of me, it's computers. So actually, the story starts way, way early, but in 1939, HP was founded in Palo Alto. 1939. And their first customers were customers like Disney, using their computers to power projectors. So really fringe use cases. Computers were such a foreign technology, really strange and scared a lot of people. And it really took about 20-ish, actually what's the math here? It took 35 years until 1974 when computers were being used by hobbyists, and Apple, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak got together and built the Apple I. That's a picture right here. And really Apple I was a computer chip that was sold to hobbyists, and it was $666, right? And then you had to fast forward another 10 years until they released the first Macintosh with the first graphic user interface, a real milestone for the consumerization of computers, making it really friendly and putting it in the hands of people. And then it took another 10 years for Windows 95 to come out. I'm old enough to actually have used Windows 95 in the 90s, shortly before we had XP. And Windows 95, Microsoft spent $300 million purely on marketing to get that in the hands of people. And they spent $1 billion on marketing in the first year to get Windows XP into the hands of people. Now, I played a trick on you. That's not the full story. We don't have 100% adoption here. The story actually goes way longer than that. It took $1 billion of marketing by Microsoft to get to 50% adoption of personal computers in the United States alone. And it took another 30 years until the real killer feature of computers, which was the internet, forced everybody to adopt computers. And now in the US, the latest survey, I think it said that 95% of the population uses the internet in one way or another. And right here, what was happening here, what drove this early adoption, the early 10% that went from hackers and huge professionals in military and corporations and took it to hackers and beyond, was things like Photoshop, right? People needed to do things. So why am I talking about this at a longevity event? Well, I think we need to ask ourselves a little bit, where are we on this curve? When we're building products for professionals, for labs, or for consumers, similar to the previous speaker, which I thought was really cool, by the way, and us, we're thinking about consumers, we're thinking about how can we help the general population. We need to ask ourselves, who are we building for? Which part of the population? So there's 2.5, which are the innovators. They'll use things that are early stage, don't really work well. These are usually academics, hackers, and so on. And then the first 13%, we're still right here. They're waiting for the feature to actually work. And then you have the early majority, so that you get to 50%, that's another 35%. I would argue in the healthy aging space and longevity, I think we're still here. I think we're still in the hackers and that first chip that was being built by Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs in 1974. It's 2024 today. We have a long way to go, a very, very long way. But I think that's really exciting, because what that means is that the hackers, the enthusiasts that are going to take us on that journey, that are going to build the first companies that take us to the Apple I and later to something like the iPhone, are actually in this room today. So a big round of applause to everybody here. But we are nerds. Oh boy, are we nerds. We love all the biomarkers. Give them all to me. Olena and I designed our own blood panels and went and did it in Berlin. And I have all the wearables at home. I see some people here who are measuring their blood pressure 24/7 using the Actia bracelet. Who here is wearing one? Raise your hand. All right, I saw one. Okay, I see you. Good. Get one, it's really cool. But I think when we're thinking about consumerizing what we're building, we want to go from this to this. We want to make it approachable. I love my mother, but she would get nothing out of this event. So how can I build something for her? For my best friends who are not nerds, who are not biohackers. How can we take something as really, really cool that we're all big fans of, like Brian Johnson's blueprint and all the data he's sharing? How can we take that and make it as simple as 1,000 songs in your pocket? I think this is already happening a little bit right now. So one of the big moments for us in the health tech space, for builders, this year was a huge investment in Function Health. And if you look at their website, they're already kind of speaking that Apple talk, right? 100 lab tests for 1 yearly subscription. There's a lot of stuff in here. And in our community, and when we're talking to our consumers, to our customers, they're really, the first question they asked us before we even started our company was, what do I measure? Like, how do I start, right? These are not the biohackers, right? These are the early majority that come after everybody here has tried out all the products, nerded out about it, tweeted about it, blogged about it, and shared it. So how do we make that even more simple, more approachable, right? How do we help people take their first step in healthy aging? We found and we think that it's something as simple as biological age. And it's not rocket science. We're not the first to think that. You can see that in a number of products already in the market. But it still is something that is hard to approach and hard to understand. So curation here is part of the experience. But why do I think that biological age is so is the thing that's going to make it approachable for consumers? We ran a test, a very small test, with about 50 consumers in the summer, and 100% of the people who got a biological age that was older than their own age, they all wanted to do it again in 3 months or in 6 months after having implemented some changes. Everybody understands, I'm 34, but this test told me I'm 40. Oh, that's bad. That's really bad. I don't want that. Everybody understands that. And I think a lot of designers and smart product people understand that as well and are putting that in the hand of customers. So what we want to do today is share with you a little bit the research we've been doing, the experiments we've been running to really aid our customers and our community in making that decision of choosing a biological age test. And I'm going to invite Olena Husak on stage, and she's going to talk about why we think epigenetic tests are today one of the best ways that consumers can take a first step on their path to healthy aging.
So what is epigenetic clock? In the next few minutes, you will learn how to choose the right one. So, our DNA, double helix, which is packed into the chromosome, actually can be chemically modified. And this chemical modification, one of the most important one is methylation. Basically, you have a methyl group. It's carbon hydrogen 3, which can be attached to your DNA. And when lots of methyl group are attached, your DNA is blocked. The RNA cannot be synthesized, the protein cannot be produced, so the gene is off. And when there is a little of methylation on your DNA, the gene is active. It can be produced. And when we are young, in different organs and tissues, we have very beautiful picture of methylation. Imagine it as a mosaic or like a picture. So basically, DNA methylation makes our different organ to produce different molecules we need. And if we look at DNA methylation pattern of our whole body, it's beautiful and organized picture. But with age, what is happening, we are losing here and there some methylation groups. And the picture becomes fuzzy, and that's why we don't produce any more good molecules. We are aging, and we're getting diseased, and then essentially we die. And this process is called epigenetic drift, losing and gaining methylation. Scientists took this epigenetic drift and figured out some minimum number of DNA methylation sites which really tick, particularly from 0 to 100. And they called it DNA methylation clock or epigenetic clock. And the beauty of this clock that I can take DNA of any person in this room, I can do DNA methylation sequencing and put you on this model and figure it out how you are ticking from inside. And for instance, here is an example of a person who is 40 years old, but from inside, this person is 50. So this person is having accelerated pace of aging. To pick a good clock, you need to understand how it was designed. And by now, we have already 3 generation clocks. The first generation was measuring just epigenetic drift. Maybe you heard Hanum, Horvath clocks. Second generation took a step forward and started calculating the time to death, time to disease. It's Grimm age, Fano age, good clocks. Unfortunately, about second gen clock, I will not talk today, just to save time. Good clocks. And the third generation is Dunedin pace. This is a clock which shows how fast or slow you are ticking. So, great clock criteria. What's important? First of all, it's important the clock reflects aging processes. It gives a very kind of functional and comprehensive look of your health. Because if you look at glycated sugar level, it tells you something only about glucose metabolism, but what about other things? So the good clock will tell you about different functions of your body. It should be realistic estimation of your biological age. Technical error should be small, and it should be consistent. So I want to measure my bio age this week, in 3 weeks, and I don't want to see a big difference because it's nonsense. And it's very important that clock is changeable by interventions, because I personally don't want to know biological age, which I cannot change. And finally, it should be really well published, because now we are in the era where many little companies emerge. They have their own clocks and they have one paper. And it's very poor, and it's very difficult to say something about your health when you have only one paper. So, bio age, the good, the bad, the ugly. Disclaimer, it's just for the information purpose. We don't endorse any products. We don't suggest any particular test. Just few slides, just an example. And I will not cover all the clocks, guys. So, first clock. This clock looks at 4 methylation sites. Is it functional? Can 4 methylation sites in your DNA give some information about your health? No. It's, I think, clear for everyone. It gives realistic estimation of biological age. The technical error is good. Consistency, anecdotal. Really, no data. One paper. Is it changed by the lifestyle? Maybe that broccoli will change methylation of one site, but I don't know if it's connected. So it's really, again, not published, 4 methylation sites. It's not good clock. Another one, this clock already looks at 13 methylation sites of a gene which is called L2. It's a famous longevity gene. If there is some scientists in the room, you've heard it. So this gene is progressively methylated with age. We know it. We also know if a person has a chronic viral infection, this gene is methylated even faster. However, this gene is about fatty acid synthesis, and will this gene methylation gives us insight about health? I think everyone in this room knows the answer. No. It's not complex health picture. Again, realistic, yes. Technical error, good. Consistency. This clock has good consistency. It's well published. I mean, the consistency paper, again, one paper. Can it be changed by the lifestyle, by me running, eating better, sleeping better? No data. Not good enough. Third one, Horvath. This is a multi-tissue clock. It's super well published. It shows DNA methylation signature of many organs. Great. It was not designed to show a functional health, but because this clock is really well published and everyone respects Horvath. He was a pioneering person who actually created the clock. So there are many other papers published, looked at nutrition, sleep, and other interventions, and there is some signals that, yes, it can be changed. So I have to say it's first-gen clock, but it's good one. And finally, the last one, Dunedin Pace. Somebody heard this clock? Can you raise a hand? Okay, great. Makes me happy. Yes, it's one of the really good clocks. Why it is good? First of all, because of the design. So this scientists, they looked at the cohort of 1,000 people, and they looked at the 19 biomarkers of health, which include glycated sugar, VO2 max, some lung capacity biomarkers, BMI, and so on. You can appreciate it here. So it's a functional health. And then the scientists tried to find the DNA methylation patterns which correspond to this health. And they found 46 methylation sites which work well. Again, functional, yes. Realistic estimation of bio age, yes. Technical error, great. Consistency, changeability, and here is a game changer. This clock was used in the first clinical trial for people to show that calorie restriction can slow down aging, and it showed actually that yes, you can slow calories study. Brian Johnson measures his bio-age with Dunedin pace. So now his best result is 64%. That means that he is aging for only 7.6 months in a year. There are other people who participate in Rejuvenation Olympics. You can check the website. There are people who have even slower pace of aging, but this is kind of a ruler at the moment for people interested in longevity to check. And everyone is mostly using this clock. Get Live app, and yeah, I hope I didn't bore you too much. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Olena. Yeah, so if you're thinking about this Dunedin pace clock, I want you to think about the Apple I computer that Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs were putting in the hands of people back in 1974. And I think that this clock and the other cool clocks that are coming in the future are that moment in technology where we're going to really make healthy aging approachable and accessible for everyone. And this is our website. You can sign up to our waiting list here. If you're asking what do, we offer you this clock for starters, and then we help you actually slow down your pace of aging. Thank you.
We have questions, and Alena, can you be back? Yeah. And by we, I meant I. Last year when I was at Zuzulu, I measured my biological age at the same day with two different clocks. One of them was methylation clock, the other one was glycation clock. I was 35, methylation clock showed 28, and they of course were right. The other one showed 47. Yes. How do you explain that?
Okay. First of all, I have to say that glycan age, we just learned it with our early access customers and with people we talk. Glycan age usually overestimates, the biological age. It's one part of the answer. The second, different clocks were designed differently, and they were designed with the different cohorts of people. And it's a beautiful question because exactly, which clock do I use? To which clock do I trust? I will need to ask you a question. Why do you want to then measure your biological age? Why?
I don't want to die of aging. I want to be immortal, well, close to immortal. I want to live as long as possible. And as Leo asked me, I want to be either forever young or an enhanced human. That's why I measure biological age, so I will see how good I am at this progress.
Didn't finish, sorry. Glycan age, it's like how much sugar is like sticking to your immune cells, right?
No, it's glycosylation, not glycation.
They are related. Okay. Anyway, thank you for a correction. I would say that you need to always study on which cohort of people it was designed. Some cohorts are more like healthy, some cohorts are less. Some cohorts were designed in the hospital. So that's why you need to do the due diligence, but the best clock actually to use is well published. Everyone is using it. You also know Brian Johnson reference. You can relate to people. You can see how healthy they are. You can see maybe even blood test of Brian Johnson. So it's important to be relatable. So it's like with wearable data. Just choose one, do it continuously every several years, and you will have a good data.
So you're stressing that you need to choose one and continue to do the actually one method of measurements, because if you then switch to other clocks, they will be so
Different
chaotic.
results, difficult to compare, and essentially you want to be better in health. That's why if you use the clock for this reason, use the same. Well designed.
Thank you. Leo?
I just want to add one nuance on this. If anyone's ever tried to buy a sleep tracker and goes online and tries to figure out which is the best sleep tracker and realizes that the Aura and Apple Watch and the Sleep 8 and your Fitbit, they all will give you slightly different values, right? Clocks are the same, right? It's an estimate of something.
So I have a question for you, actually. You mentioned,
Me or
for you.
Sure.
You mentioned Apple's V1 a couple of times.
Yeah.
And in that sense, would you see value of a small community, whether that is a town in Illinois or a small network state, to conduct an experiment that is actually very different from her argument, which I have a hard time agreeing with, that is not decentralized at all, it's actually pretty centralized, to prove a point that you can actually scale this and prove the point that living healthier and measuring that health through several biological clocks, not only epigenetic clocks, would eventually lead to better health care outcomes, less healthcare expenditures. And would you see value on an experiment like this, whether you can either do it in Malta or you can do it in a small community at Moose in Berlin? Would you see the value of that?
Yeah, of course. So I don't use an Apple One computer at home, just to make sure everyone knows that. And I don't think we will keep using the same clocks and the same technology forever, right? Like our mission is to put the best clock in the hands of people and help them to understand what it actually says so they can do something about it. And if your proposal is going to generate a better clock with better data, whether it's epigenetic or based on some other biomarkers, from more people, of course, right? So at the end of the day, like Olena was saying, if it's a peer-reviewed paper that is well understood, well referenced, and then we try it out for long enough, then yeah, I don't see any reason why not.
Thank you. Another question here.
Hello. I'm not going to pose a question because I already really grateful for all the information you gave us. And I'm just going to give a very small input, and that is thank you so much for doing your work. And also, my kind of goal with longevity is, okay, I'm a scientist, this is not going to be scientific, okay? Prepare. So I just want longevity only for fulfilling my soul mission on this earth, in this incarnation, to make this incarnation last long enough that my soul can fulfill its mission, and not for, just being here, having pleasure, and, enjoying the life, and my ego being like, oh, I want this more, I want more of this, I want eternally to be like here and have all this, but it's more about enabling each other to longevity, to make this earth and everything, this life, better. Thank you.
I applaud that.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay, then round of applause to Amer and Olena. Good luck to fellow entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is very hard, and let's support every one of us.